Trump and Xi Jinping meet face-to-face, mano a Pooh Bear. There's a new, truly horrifying reason to be wary of food in China. And is Israel helping Taiwan develop its air defense systems? And more on this week's China News headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell, and happy Halloween, everyone. And since it's Halloween, we're going to start with a story you can really sink your teeth into. Human teeth have been found in food in China. Well, that quickly stopped being fun. Now there's even more reason to not want to know how the sausage is made. On October 13th, a woman in Jilin province found an entire row of artificial teeth in a sausage she bought from an outdoor stall. Yes, I said they were artificial, so the story isn't quite that horrific. Yet, because the same day, a different woman in Guangdong province on the other side of the country said her dad found two actual human teeth in dim sum at a dumpling restaurant. She made it clear the teeth didn't belong to her father. Thank goodness, because if they did, I don't want to know what the etiquette is about giving your parents money from the tooth fairy. Then, the very next day, a customer in Shanghai found an artificial tooth with a metal screw inside a jujube and walnut cake that she bought at Sam's Club China. I haven't seen this many teeth falling out of people's heads since the last 987 times I went to sleep. I have recurring nightmares, and I have a dream journal. One theory is that the dentures from employees fell out during the processing of this food. But this isn't the first time this has happened. Human teeth were found in a Sam's Club mooncake in 2024, and before that, also in a Sam's Club product in 2022. So while this probably isn't cannibalism of the type seen during the Great Famine, it might be a reason for people to avoid Sam's Clubs in China. Ugh. On a lighter note, President Trump is on a major tour of Asia, including stops in Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea. And the visit so far is reaping a lot of rewards, like taking every side mission in Silk Song. Trump is a completionist. For example, in Japan, Trump met with the country's first female prime minister, Sanae Takaichi, where the two watched the World Series together, visited the USS George Washington and its crew in Yokosuka, and reminisced about the late Shinzo Abe, Trump's friend and Takaichi's mentor, who once served as prime minister. If only all diplomacy could be this easy. It sounds less like foreign relations and more like a slumber party. But the best part for Trump probably was the gifts. Takaichi gifted Trump with one of Abe's personal golf clubs, along with fireworks and 250 cherry blossom trees for America's 250th birthday next year. That way, every spring from now on, DC can turn into even more of a magical fairyland. What beautiful and heartfelt gifts! It's a heck of a haul for his inventory. But more importantly, if less sentimentally, the two conservative leaders signed a big deal on rare earth minerals. The goal is to stop being so reliant on China. Takaichi is a fierce critic of the Chinese Communist Party and a staunch ally to Taiwan. And Tokyo clearly wants to boost ties with Washington, which is why Trump also secured deals in Japan concerning defense sales and investments worth $550 billion. Don't you love it when slumber parties end with you raking in $500 billion? Afterwards, Trump flew to South Korea, where the reception wasn't quite as warm. Trump did become the first American to receive Seoul's highest honor, the Grand Order of Mugunhwa Medal. Maybe this will make him feel better for not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. He also got a crown, a replica of a Korean historical relic. Those No Kings protests really backfired, didn't they? On top of this, Trump lowered tariffs on the country by 10%, and South Korea agreed to invest $20 billion into American projects and another $150 billion into U.S. shipbuilding. You might need a bigger inventory for all these gifts. This is big because currently China dominates global shipbuilding. That's a bad thing. But the U.S. has been struggling to ramp up its own shipbuilding. But most importantly, from this tour, President Trump met with the big bear himself, Chinese leader and Winnie the Pooh impersonator Xi Jinping. The entire Asia trip leading up to this meeting was all about countering the CCP. Trump even ordered the Pentagon to restart nuclear weapons testing on an equal basis with other countries like China and Russia after a 33-year halt. The meeting itself was kind of blasé. It was basically a Rorschach test for whatever you already believed. Some said Xi's failure to make eye contact with Trump was a sign Xi was weak. Others said Trump was desperately trying to fawn over Xi, but he remained cold and unmoved. One thing is clear, though. The people who said Xi would be purged last week at the fourth plenum were really wrong. But the actual meeting was a bit of a letdown. Trump said that he and Xi came to an agreement on almost everything. China is reportedly purchasing 180,000 tons of U.S. soybeans for the first time in months as a gesture of good faith. Trump reduced overall tariffs on China by 10%. He didn't put the new 100% tariff increase into effect, and Xi delayed China's rare earth restrictions for 1 year. Plus, there was some kind of super vague agreement regarding fentanyl precursors. Trump also agreed to postpone fees on Chinese-made ships docking at U.S. ports. China did the same, but since there are basically no American ships to speak of, this was definitely a concession on Trump's part. But according to the China Daily, Xi said that China's development does not contradict the U.S. vision of making America great again. Some people online are saying that's huge, but of course, just like everything else coming from the CCP regarding the U.S., it means basically nothing, which puts us pretty much exactly where we were 3 weeks ago. And so, from the depths, I once again summon my avatar and say nothing ever happens. But that doesn't mean you're not missing out. I did a special video about this meeting that you could have seen yesterday, right as the news was breaking, on my exclusive website, ChinaUncensored.tv. If you really want to stay up to date on what's happening in China and how it affects you, sign up at ChinaUncensored.tv. And after the break, it looks like Israel and Taiwan are getting closer. This will be a fun one to talk about on the internet. Welcome back. Yibing Wang, a pro-CCP Chinese community leader in New York City, has been arrested by ICE for immigration violations. Wang appears to have ties to the New York Chinese consulate and is the president of the pro-CCP organization, the Chimerica Women Association, which is Chinese American women, not Chimera American women. I was disappointed to learn. She was also reportedly seen distributing Chinese flags to other pro-CCP demonstrators before a protest against then Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's stopover in New York in 2023. This is just another example of how the Chinese Communist Party is trying to exert power over the so-called homeland associations in New York's Chinese community. They're more of a multi-headed beast than the Chimera American Association, which should exist. Some reports suggest that Israel is offering a helping hand for Taiwan's version of the Iron Dome. The island's deputy defense minister allegedly paid a secret visit to Israel last month to discuss technology transfers for building the so-called T-Dome, which is Taiwan's very own version of the Iron Dome, and also a sweet nickname for a guy in a biker gang. Now, there's not very much to go on because obviously this would be a pretty secretive project if it's true. But these reports don't end there. Taiwan's president is citing Israel's capacity to defend itself as a model for Taiwan. So, does this mean that Taiwan is going to create and expand settlements in China? West Taiwan for the win. William Lai also attended an APEC meeting in Taipei, where he cited the David and Goliath story to talk about standing up to authoritarianism. I've actually been saying for years that Israel is a good model for Taiwanese defense. Once again, reality is just beginning to catch up with me. Seriously, in a few years, that Chimera America Association will be real. Lai proceeded to say that trilateral U.S.-Israeli-Taiwanese cooperation can bring stability and peace to the Taiwan Strait, and claimed that the Jewish people's experience is a valuable model for his country. And in a show of solidarity, I wonder if Israel will encourage Jews to eat Taiwanese food on Christmas instead of Chinese. And now on to a controversy involving Bill Gates. I know, shocking. He's such a chill dude. No one has ever had anything bad to say about him. Turns out that the Senate Committee on the Judiciary is investigating the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for funneling millions of dollars to Chinese PLA fronts. The committee's chairman sent a letter to the Gates Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund after citing reports from the Washington Examiner that they might be violating IRS rules that ban charities from funding foreign governments. Because, duh. That'd be like Toys for Tots sending Labubus to North Korea. According to these reports, the three left-wing organizations provided funding to Chinese government agencies and state-run universities, many of which are involved in the PLA's buildup. But they also allegedly even funded the CCP's Belt and Road projects. And perhaps even more stupidly, the tax form these philanthropists filled even attests to their foreign donations. So they're idiots and rule breakers, but at least they're honest. The organizations have until November 10th to respond to the letter about their compliance, or lack thereof, with these tax laws and the depth of their involvement with the CCP. If they don't, I imagine the Trump administration is going to slap them with some serious fines, and he'll be needing to make even more room in his inventory. Now, I started China Uncensored in 2010, the year Xi Jinping came to power. Since then, I've made more than 2,000 episodes of China Uncensored. Each one exposes the CCP, its crimes, and its propaganda. I've traveled around the world for you. Matt Shelley and I took a tiny fishing boat out to the disputed waters of the South China Sea, where we were surrounded by the Chinese Coast Guard. We've covered the make-or-break elections in Taiwan. And we've covered so many protests in Hong Kong that my eyes water just thinking about it. And there's lots more to come. All of these things are possible because of you, my amazing China Uncensored 50-cent army. You're the ones who want to actually do something to stand up to the CCP and support China Uncensored. Visit ChinaUncensored.tv to learn how you can make a difference. Just click on this button and it'll send you right there. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.